So this book is titled "It's Not Always Depression,"
Mhm.
which was the springboard for which was an article that you wrote for the New York Times.
Mhm.
And I gather it must have sparked a lot of response to kind of fire you up to go on and take on the project of a book, which is not a
Mhm.
small thing.
Mhm.
And so, what were you getting at in that article? It's not always depression. That would seem to suggest that would be something about misdiagnosis, that people maybe are labeling things as depression that aren't, or help me with
Mhm.
that.
Okay. So I'm just going to sort of start with the punchline and then work backward for,
Okay.
which is that I think in our culture, depression and anxiety are rampant, and often people think that's the end of the story. I'm depressed. Okay, so
Mm.
now what can I do? I can take some medication to be undepressed. And there's some things, I can go for some therapy to get support. Same thing with anxiety. And what I guess if there's anything to take away, is that I want people to know that's the beginning of the story, not the end of the story. So
Hmm.
that there's a reason we are depressed, unless it's purely chemical. And I'm not sure anything is purely anything, that we're a combination of our genetics and our
Yeah, right.
disposition and largely our experience, because our brain wires based on our experiences, for better and for worse. So the article that I wrote, I felt I had something to say because I worked with not one but several people that had been diagnosed as depressed 20 years ago, and had every form of treatment for depression, and nothing worked. And they somehow found me, I guess, as an emotion. I think in my website, I talk about childhood trauma, and
Uh-huh.
that must resonate. And the people that came were like, okay, that resonates. So this particular person that I wrote the article about was someone like that, who had been through every, medication, cocktails of medication, in and out of psychiatric hospitals, DBT, CBT, supportive, psychoanalytic, every type of treatment, and nothing worked. And I didn't want to, so I had common sense, which Babette Rothschild, I don't know if you've ever spoken to her, says above all, use common sense in psychotherapy, which I love. So my common sense told me, let's not repeat what's already been done. And
Yeah,
I reconfigured Brian, who the name I gave him in the article,
right.
as someone who suffered childhood neglect and trauma, and was suffering as a result of being cut off from primary emotions and suffering shame, which I talk about as an inhibitory emotion and something that makes people sort of fold inward to themselves. And so in conceptualizing him this way, I treated him using AEDP, which is to help people get back in touch with their emotions. And then they start to become vital again. The emotions are just the essence of who we are, how we feel alive
Hmm.
and here. And he got better. And
Yay.
he got better. And I
Yeah.
wrote about it, and the article went viral.